All right, thank you for joining us today. We have Brandon Patrick George, who is a Grammy Award-winning flutist, musician, and Brooklyn Heights resident. And we're excited to talk to you, Brandon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your career. How did you take on the flute?
I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I grew up there, and I began playing the flute around age 10 in my elementary school band program. And then from there, I went to a performing arts magnet school um, for grades 9 through 12. So from the age of 12, I was in a program that gave me private lessons, as well as orchestra 3 times a week, all in addition to my academic classes. And I became obsessed, if you will, with not only the instrument, but at that school discovering classical music, particularly the music of Bach and Mozart. Early on really propelled me forward. And I couldn't put it down. It seems childlike that I now make my living doing this same thing that I was extremely fascinated with as a young boy, but it still gives me great joy to do that, and so I love it.
What brought you to Brooklyn Heights originally, and how long have you been here?
I guess you could say love brought me to Brooklyn Heights. I used to live in Williamsburg, and I met my husband some time ago, and he was already in the neighborhood, and we had our second date at Long Island Bar, actually. So yeah, and I've now lived in the neighborhood since around 2020.
What do you love most about this community in particular? Because New York is such a big place, but Brooklyn Heights is just a kind of little sliver of New York. What do you love about Brooklyn Heights?
I love architecture. And when I was in college, I took a course in architecture history, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood. So I love that. I have to say that I like that it's quite peaceful. And as someone who makes, I make my living making a lot of sound and a lot of noise, if you will, it's nice to come home to a community that's quiet.
If you had a recommendation for an out-of-town visitor, or maybe somebody visiting from another part of New York, what would you recommend they go see in Brooklyn Heights? What's kind of one of your hidden gems, or maybe not so hidden gems?
Maybe not so hidden. Well, I always tell people when they come to the neighborhood, where should they walk? I tell them to go straight to the promenade first, because I think it's just so gorgeous. In terms of restaurants, I like Henry's Inn. I go there quite a bit. And I have to say that some of my earliest memories in coming to Brooklyn Heights was as a young professional. Some of the very first concerts that I gave were at Barge Music, right down on the Fulton Ferry Landing. Barge Music is basically a floating concert hall. It's docked at Fulton Ferry Landing, and it's been around since the late 70s. It was started by a violinist. She inherited some money, and she always had this vision that she would have a floating concert hall. And so she did it. She purchased this coffee barge, and with the help of some friends, put up very nice wood paneling to adjust the acoustic, and began presenting concerts weekly. And they do concerts year-round, chamber music concerts, so string quartet, recitals, piano trios.
And so when you were a young musician, you were playing down at Barge.
Yeah, I have to say that the artistic director there heard me when I was almost fresh out of school, and gave me some of my first opportunities to play for New York audiences. So it's a very special place for me. So I like to tell people, if you're looking for a place to go on a date, or just alone to hear some lovely music, or with friends, to check out the Barge Music schedule. That is definitely a hidden gem. And I don't think that there's not some grand sign advertising these concerts on the weekend. So when you go down there, it's kind of unassuming. You're not really sure what it is, but I like to tell people to go there for sure.
Yeah, no, it's not like walking by Carnegie Hall. You never realize what it is, but that's a terrific suggestion.
Yes.
So I understand that just this week, you received something very special.
I did receive something very special.
Tell us about that.
The day after my birthday. So on Wednesday,
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I got a box in the mail and it was my Grammy Award. I actually received the statuette in the mail, which was so exciting. Contrary to what people see on television and in the news, you don't actually walk out of the Grammys with your Grammy. It actually has to be engraved and mailed to you about 3 months later.
Okay,
So,
all right. Well, congratulations on that. And this is your first Grammy.
this is my first one.
Well, perhaps not your last one.
I hope not. This is the second nomination, the first Grammy, so
Okay.
maybe there are more to come.
Can you tell us about the group that you play with?
Sure. I play with a group called Imani Winds. It is a group that has been around since 1997. So they've been around since like I was just basically picking up the flute, right? The group, like I said, has been around since 1997, has been nominated for a Grammy 3 times, and as I said, this was the first one this year. It is a group, it's a woodwind quintet, so it is the woodwind version of the string quartet. It is comprised of flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, and French horn. It's a configuration that became quite popular in the 19th century, into the 20th century. So because of that time in history, we don't have the same repertoire as the string quartet, Beethoven, the Brahms. So a lot of our repertoire comes from the early 20th century and from today. The group has made its name by commissioning works by living composers from diverse backgrounds to what we feel reflect the world in which we live. So we play mostly contemporary music, but by a variety of composers from various demographics. And we love that. We tour full time, and when we're not on the road, we teach at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, where we joined the faculty 3 years now. So I think I'm going into my 4th school year next year.
So keep a lookout for Imani Winds.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
and Imani is, as I understand, it's the Swahili word for faith.
It is the Swahili word for faith. It is one of the principles of Kwanzaa, and it is important to the group's identity because it was started by a fabulous African-American flutist and composer, Valerie Coleman, who is now doing incredible things as a composer. Her music being played all over. And we continue to be an ensemble predominantly of color.
Well, I hope to see you down at Barge again.
I hope so. It's been many years since I've been there, but we do play in the city every so often, not every season, but we were at Carnegie Hall last season, as well as Merkin Concert Hall near Lincoln Center. So we play in the city often, so stay tuned.
Terrific. All right, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us, and this was a real pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Pleasure.